Good morning, Fort Alliance. Welcome here. Before I sit down, introduce our special guest presenter. If you maybe came in a little late and are like, what the heck happened in here? We are running a 6-week course called Hearing God. We started our first one on Tuesday, and we're continuing now for the next 5 weeks. And so to help us run and facilitate that course, we had to set up like this, and so now you're in this environment. So if you're new or you're visiting, you're a guest who's come in and you're like, whoa, what's going on in here? Is this normal? This isn't normal, and I know it can be a little bit of a risk to engage in community like this, but thank you for coming and taking that risk. I just want to get a picture of y'all because you guys are so amazing. Say hi. It's great to have you and to be here, like this. It's like I said, it is different, but we're grateful that you're here with us. We are in the midst of a little mini series called Overcome, and Jesus truly has overcome this world. And not only has he overcome this world, but we hear from his word in Revelation that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, which is first and foremost Jesus and his sacrifice for us. But we also overcome by the word of their testimony, the testimony and the stories of the saints of Jesus showing up and impacting, changing, helping us navigate life. And in our church culture, at least, not all church culture, but in our church culture, we probably don't spend enough time sharing testimony. And so this series gives us a chance to share testimony in the stories of just life and how things have gone and how, Jesus has come in and shown up and what have you. And so we were just singing. It's all good. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. We'll get to you later. Mm-hmm. We just sang of the roads and the journeys of Jesus showing up in the darkness. And I'm with my friend Lou. And her story is a story of a season of really total darkness. And a season of really trying to survive. And we are going to get into your story, a story that includes not just heartache, but horrible abuse, in fact. And we're going to share some of that and move to the place of hope and a story of redemption. But let's kind of pick up and work our way through. And let's just start with you as a kid, growing up, your childhood, church, its part in you, how those things formed and maybe shaped you a little bit. So share with us a little bit about you as a child and your journey with church family.
Sure. I'm a sixth child of 7. I was the sixth child for 12 years, and then my mom had my little sister. She was already grandma of 2. And surprise, surprise. Mm-hmm. But my involvement in the church, my parents both became Christians through the same gentleman who was my dad's teacher as a young boy. He impacted their lives, and so my dad was 18 when he was saved, and my mom was 12. He had went away to Bible school, became a Canadian Sunday school mission pastor, and was a pastor until my sister just before me was born. But then at that point, his father and brother had passed away, and he came back to town to kind of help his mom and his brother's wife, and started the church up there. He wasn't the pastor, but he started the church where I was born. So we were very involved in the church. I think at some points in my life, that's all I knew when you're young and before you start school. But no family is without problems and troubles. And my mom had some, I would say, mental health issues. So she was quite harsh at times.
Okay.
wasn't going to do this.
It's all
Wasn't
good.
gonna cry. Just hearing things like, I never wanted you. I wish I wouldn't have had you. And so those little things stick with you as you grow up. And yet I knew Jesus was bigger. It's weird. You go through life and he was everything, even as a child. I have Kleenex, sorry. I remember accepting him as Lord and Savior. Sorry about that. I was 3. I still remember because I was wearing diapers at night. And I kneeled beside my bed and asked him into my life. And so even though there was stuff going on that I didn't understand, he meant a lot to me. And so as I grew in my faith, even though things weren't always perfect, because no family is. And he gave me verses like Isaiah 41. I was quite young when I remember this one, but I am bad at saying things out loud, so I'll read it. Isaiah 41:10. Fear not, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And so I had a lot of fears as a kid, but then I had a lot of love for God. I was always singing and involved in worship at the church and helping with summer camps and youth. I was on the youth leader board. Back then it was different. You didn't have a youth pastor. It was a team. You were the team, and we'd have up to 100 kids for a small little town on a Friday. Everyone loved to come and be involved. So yeah, not a normal childhood, but still a good childhood. And I became a Christian because of my parents, even though they had their struggles and weren't perfect, because we all aren't. But I know today I'm saved because of what they taught me.
Well, and that just is a brief testimony to us of just like the power of the faith of a child.
Yeah.
And we've been experiencing a real move of kids searching for God in this fellowship. And there's something about God moving and interacting with kids in a childlike faith way that I know for me as an adult, sometimes I've become a little callous to. So this is a good reminder for us. Well, from there, I want to fast track us into your first marriage. And as I've already kind of gave a little bit of groundwork, this is a very painful part of your life. It's a part that was filled with, like the song, the lyric we were just singing, right? Like a dark season. It's a story filled with abuse, and I know that this is a sensitive topic, and we are grateful for you in just having the courage to share with us today. And so, with only what you're comfortable in this moment, okay? Can you just share with us that story of abuse in that season of your life in your first marriage?
I was married at 20 and met him actually through college and careers, just friends through the church. And what I saw in him was, I thought, good, godly. But in no time after we were married, saw little signs of different things, excessive drinking and name calling, stealing. Like back in that day, there wasn't Interact, so you had money in your wallet or your purse, but I'd go to get money for groceries and it would be gone. So those were the little things. But then once we had our first daughter, back then they kept you in the hospital for a little while if it was more of a hard birth. And he didn't come to see me. You don't know what's going on. You're like, oh, I just had our first child. What's going on? Having people come visit me saying, wow, the party at your house was great last night. And I'm like, what? So just those little things, and finding out that he had been unfaithful, and Within 2 weeks of our daughter being born, the abuse physically, not only verbally, mentally started, but the physical started. Being punched, held down and spit in my face, things thrown, choking till I'd pass out. Just trying to think. So I wouldn't be able to leave or have friends. He would destroy my vehicle, smash it into things so that I couldn't drive. Yeah, I've had broken fingers, been in hospitals for months on end. It just, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I know that this next question is one that you want to be really careful with. And again, so like, please don't feel any pressure beyond what you and me have talked about, right? But I just would like to know a little bit more about kind of your experience in the local church's response in that season of your life, without trying to like point fingers or whatever else. How did that season kind of play out for you in your local church environment, and just talk to us a little bit about that with what you're comfortable again.
Because I was very involved in the church, and that had been my church my whole life. Like, I'm a member, I'm on the worship, I'm teaching Sunday school. I felt that was a place that I could go to and find help or get help for our marriage or what was going on. But it wasn't quite that way. I remember the first time going to the pastor and being asked what I did to provoke him. That was a hard one to swallow because I just need validation. I needed someone to protect me. I remember my dad having his eldership taken away. That was a hard one. They started to send elders, and the pastor came every Friday for, I would say, a period of 6 months to our house every Friday. And just in the evening to see how things were going or if it was getting better. And I would be black and blue because at that point it was most every week that it was happening. And the question would come again, what did you do? It would never be what did he do or that he had a problem. It was, what did you do to provoke him? At one point, one of them even told me if I divorced him, I'd go to hell. And as a young woman of 21 at that time, it was like, what? Like, it wasn't what I knew, but at the same time, it hits you in such a way of, what am I doing? Yeah.
Lou, I just want, and I know you and me have talked numerous times preparing us publicly, though I feel it's just really important for me as a pastor and a leader of a local church to say to you, like we really are sorry that was your experience. And I know that can't change anything, but that's completely the opposite of God's heart. And at the same time, I think it's important for me to say, like, with this, the church family that I'm supposed to be a shepherd to, like, if your story is a story where you've lived in secrecy in these types of things, or maybe even right now we're in the secrecy of an abusive reality, I just want you to know that God's heart is not a heart for you to stay and physically be abused. That is not his desire for you. That is not his will for you. His heart is for his kids to live in knowledge of him, and in that knowledge of him find freedom. And that is not freedom. No. And so please hear from the bottom of my heart, if this is a part of any of your stories, I'm sorry for what you may have experienced in the past, even church leadership that is inappropriately spoken. And hear today that it's so significant that if this is your story, you find a place to get help and get safe, and we will help you find a place to get help and get safe at Fort Alliance. That's just so important. And like that's with like the hair standing on the back of my neck that I say that right now, because like it's just so wrong. So here you are in the midst of hell on earth in many ways. And eventually you get to the point where there's a breaking point. And thankfully, another spiritual leader that had a part in helping you break out of this environment. Tell us about your breaking point and the person that helped you recognize this is not God's heart and not what he would want for you.
Right. First of all, I'll explain a little bit. By this point of my breaking point, it was year number 7, and I had already been gone 3 times and went back due to the church. So one time was 3 months, 15 months, and then a year. And so then this was the 3rd time of being back, and I would have been back with him for over 2 years this time, and we had 3 children by this time. So my youngest daughter would have been about 3 months at this point, and then I would have had a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. So our oldest daughter was in school, and the school would not allow you to leave them at school for lunch. You had to pick them up or pay for them to be there during that time for the supervision. So every day I would walk with the 2 other little ones and pick her up. And so we were back at home having a picnic. In the living room, it was fall, and watching the Flintstones for lunch just to have fun. And unexpectedly, my ex-husband came home and was not happy that we were eating lunch, having fun, or being in the living room. He came up and was going to hit our oldest daughter. And I stood up quickly in between. And at this point, it had been so long that I was angry. And I stood up and I said, "If you touch her, I'll kill you." And I knew I would. And that I knew I had to leave because it would have been me being the bad person. And then that day when he left again, because he did hit me and then he left, and I thought, I can't stay. I walked my daughter back to school, and her words were, "Mommy, I wish Daddy was dead." And I knew I had to go. I was staying thinking that it was the right thing to do for the kids. And it wasn't. It was harming them as much as it was harming me. And so I made a call back to my old church, but they had a new pastor. And I said, "Can I make an appointment to see you? I need help. I need to talk to somebody."
Yeah.
And I didn't know him from Adam, which is interesting. But he told me to come as soon as I could. It was a 2-hour drive. So I packed up the kids and we went, and they played in the baby room while I talked to him, and I told him my story, and his first words out of his mouth were, "If you were my daughter, you would have been out of there the first time."
Yeah.
And that's all I needed. I needed to hear that. I needed someone to say, "This shouldn't have happened to you."
Yeah.
And then he phoned my parents, and he said, "Your daughter is here. Either you will help her and take her in, or the church will help her." And that's what happened. My parents took me in, and for 8 months, I stayed with them, and then they gave me and the girls their house to live in, and they moved out, and because the girls finally felt secure. But
So now you're in this season where you're a single mom.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure life out, and process, how do I care for them? How do I provide? Thoughts on your own wounding and hurts.
Yeah.
You're probably working through your own processes on love and what is even love. As you're in this new season, finding a new rhythm. Can you just tell us a little bit about what's going through your mind as you're on your own, processing life, love, everything in between?
It wasn't an easy season the first 3 years. Back in that day, it didn't matter how bad things were, the kids were still told they had to see their dad supervised. So that part was hard. We did a lot of healing. We went to counseling for 3 years every Wednesday, me and the girls. But as I went into this season, I remember praying and saying, okay, God, keep me from ever loving again. Keep my heart so I don't even desire that. That if you were ever going to allow me to love again, it would be someone who loves you and who loves my girls the way you love us. And so that was my kind of an oath. I don't know if but I said that to God, and He did. And I worked hard. Between the church and I worked 3 jobs, but God provided and took care of us. We went through being stalked for 3 years, where it finally went through the courts after he threatened the supervisors of the visit and stuff that he was going to kill them, and told my kids he was coming to kill me, that it finally went to court and he was not allowed to ever see them again. And that just changed our life. So
One of the things that was really important for you to bring up today is the kind of critical piece of your journey that empowered you to move forward. And this is mind-boggling in many ways, but share with us the part of what was so significant for you to move forward at all.
Well, I think in my healing process, it was forgiveness. I look at forgiveness, and I don't think that you can move forward without forgiving the person that hurt you. And I know that I didn't want to see him again, and I don't think that forgiveness means that you have to reconcile. I think forgiveness is just something God wants us to do so that we can move on in our day and choose joy and find happiness again and freedom. And I went through Neil Anderson's material many times and had to find out who I was in him. When you're broken and feel that, so I know that we were talking on Friday when we were going through this, and this wasn't during my healing process, but now I can look back and say to someone, if you're going through this, we might not be able to forgive someone, but whatever. This was from Lisa Turkirsch. I can't say her name right, but as she was going through her healing process, she said, whatever my feelings will not yet allow for, the blood of Jesus will cover. And I think in all of my brokenness, Jesus was who I turned to. And I had so many little songs I sang to my girls at night. Cast all your cares upon him. For he cares for you, and just all the things that God did for us, all the hard times, he was always there. So he became more like a friend and like a good father. And one of the verses that I had was Genesis 50:20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is being done now. And then one of the things that I had to do in my own heart was Corinthians 10:5. We take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. Satan can have a heyday with you. And your hurts can turn to hatred. And that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to be hating. I did not want to hate even the people at the church that hurt me. It was, no, they're just man. What can man do? Like, we have to be forgiving in all those areas and go, they're doing what they know. They didn't know any better, and so I had to forgive. And that was all part of my healing journey, was every day to wake up and choose joy and go, okay, God, I can't go through this day, but you can walk with me through it.
Wow. That's powerful and spoken in a way that only you can speak that. So thank you for sharing that, Lou. Now, your story is a story of hope for us today. And I don't want to spoil the end of the story, but eventually you meet another guy.
Yeah.
And even though you prayed that you would never love again unless, that other guy's name is Fred.
Yeah.
Many of us know him, so spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Tell us about your and Fred's story, how you meet. How did that all happen? How does one go through what you went through and get to the place where here you are today, many years later?
Well, it was at about 4.5 years of being alone that I was very content in being alone. I could work my 3 jobs, take off the whole summer, and be with my girls.
Wow, you're a powerhouse.
And it was good.
Yep.
Between church and everything that we were involved in, it was good. We were finally safe, secure. And then one night, May of 97, my sister phones, and we're very close. We talked every few days. She lived in BC. She was an alumni from Prairie Bible Institute. Okay. And her words were, she's whispering, and I'm like, why is she whispering? Like, it's not even, and she's like, the man you're going to marry is in my kitchen. And I was like, what are you talking about? Please do not even bring this up. I'm fine. I don't need a husband. And she's like, no, like, Prairie Choir is here, and he looked at your picture, and he saw you and the girls, and he said he knew you, and I saw a twinkle, And she goes, and I said, Arlene, just leave me alone. Do not. And she goes, no, he's even coming up there for the summer. He's coming all the way up to where you're living. And I was like, that's nice. And she goes, well, I'm going to pray every night. She said, until he gets there, and he's going to marry you. I know.
Those sisters, hey?
Yeah, and so it was May, so I think that happened in March, but I met him in May, and I was up doing worship, and then I sang the special number. Back then there was those. And after service, I had seen him come in while I was practicing before service. And I knew it was him because I knew the people he was coming to work for. So it's just all these little things that you just know, but you're going, no. But he came up after service and he said, hi, my name is Fred. How do you like me so far?
That's totally a Fred line too,
It is. It is.
Yeah, that's Fred, man.
Yeah.
He hasn't changed in however many years.
Very confident, not like me. Like, it was like, oh my goodness. And I don't even know my response. Yeah. But then over the next few weeks, our friends, my parents, different people started putting little things together where he would be there. And it'd be like, oh, like the one Sunday, it was only a week after seeing him, my mom had him over. I had to go do my shift at the hospital. I did an evening shift, thought, oh, okay, by the time I get back, he's going to be gone. Like, I won't have to. But he wasn't.
I think he did that on purpose.
Yeah. And so it was all those little things. But by week number 2, he had come to our house, me and the girls, and we had gone canoeing, which I hate water. So that is, you just do it because you think maybe you kind of do like this person. And I had a shift the next day, so I finally had said, you have to go. I have to work tomorrow, and I have to be up at 5:30. And he was like, well, but wait. And I was like, no, you really have to go. And he said, but I have something to say. And I was like, okay, what do you have to say? And he goes, I'm going to marry you.
Say again, how long you had known him?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And Fred is...
Yeah. And I literally put my head in my hands, I remember, and I said, are you crazy? I know that the day before we had talked a little bit, and we both said we were happy being single. He was 31, I was 32, and we were both happy being single. But so for him to say that, it was like, what are you thinking? And then he went on to say, well, we'll have to do this quickly. And I was like, what do you mean quickly? And he explained, and it was a God thing, because he explained, your girls have been hurt so much. How am I, we cannot prolong this. We can't really even date for a long period. They need a dad. And so this has to happen so that they have that security. And I said, well, you'll have to talk to my girls. And he did. He went, and not that night, but a day or so later, he talked to them. And their biggest thing was, can we have your name? They did not want their father's last name anymore. They wanted a new dad's name. And we got...
This is like Hallmark movie, man.
We
got any producers in the house?
Yeah.
We can sell this. We can fund all kinds of world's issues here, right?
Yeah. So we got married. That was May, and we got married in October on Thanksgiving weekend.
Wow.
Because it was something to be thankful for.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then we've had our 3 boys. And soon to be 9 grandchildren. And yeah.
How long have you guys been married now?
26 years.
Amazing. Yeah. Lou, just as a means to kind of wrap us up, we'll close on just one more comment around the topic of abuse. But let's just for a brief moment take that topic out. Your journey starts as a little girl struggling with identity but loving Jesus.
Yeah.
And maybe there's someone, or maybe there's multiple people here who are just struggling with identity. Who are they? Are they loved? What's their purpose? What would you say to anyone in the room who just may be struggling with just who are they?
I would say the only thing that got me through was Jesus. That verse that I said earlier where he holds out his righteous right hand. He was holding me. And even though at times I was going through hard things, it doesn't mean that we're not going to go through hard things. But he has us in the palm of his hand. And I would say to that person to read good books, go to good people that want to walk with you through this journey, and you will find the freedom that you need in Jesus. And know who you are, that we are chosen. We're adopted, forgiven, redeemed. We're his beloved masterpiece. We're fearfully and wonderfully made.
The line of that pastor, when you finally broke free, if you were my daughter, that is such a powerful line. And for each and every one of you, God looks upon you as his child. He wants good for you, wants freedom for you. And so today, our hope and prayer, regardless of your story, is that you in a fresh way would be reminded that God has invited you to know him as the Holy Papa. You are a child of God. And just to wrap up, if you have for years maybe secretly hidden wounds of abuse, or if today you're in that and you need help, get the help you need. It's important you do. You're safe to do that here. You do not need to walk that road alone.